Hello, I'm Pamela Davis Brown. Welcome to episode 238 of the Well Done Life podcast. And hello, welcome back to episode 238 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis Brown. If you're new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. I am so excited for you to be here this week. I hope that you will stay and bring a lot of friends for a very long time. If you've been here before, you guys know the deal. I love you deep. Thank you so much for continuing to rock with me. I wouldn't be here at this point without you, and I just truly want to thank you for your continued support and encouragement. So before we get started, I really like to be very foundational. For those of you that have listened to the podcast before, I'm sure I sound like a broken record, but it's really important that when people come into this space that they understand what we're doing here. And so essentially, I feel like we're creating a safe space, and this safe space, I believe, is kind of like when you're building a house. You have to make sure that your foundation is strong. And so for me, it's very important that our foundation is built on two very important things, and that is clarity and love. Clarity is really straightforward. I just want to make sure that you understand that I created this space for women because I truly believe in the power of women. I believe in the power of sharing our stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I hope that by me sharing my journey transparently through life, that I'm giving you a chance to hopefully avoid some of the pitfalls that I've made, as well as maybe inspire you to share your story, because each of us is unique and special. And when we come together in real conversations and in real authenticity, we give space for each other to be inspired. We give space for each other to heal, to grow, to love, to laugh, and maybe even sometimes cry. But we do all of that here. And I don't just spotlight my story. I do have other women as well. It's been a minute, but I promise guests are coming that will come on and talk about their journey and where they are and what they're doing to help kind of feed the collective and feed the community, because there are a lot of amazing women out here doing great things. So again, like I said, I hope that you're inspired. I hope that this encourages you. I hope that this makes you see that, you know what, I'm in a season, but I'm going to get better, or there's a different path that I can take in order to accomplish my goals, but I'm going to get there. And so welcome. I hope you will feel loved and valued and seen. And then that leads right into my second tenet, which is love. I mean, I'm a sucker for love. I love love. I believe in love. And so it's really important for me that before we kind of dive into any subjects, that we start this thing off right with some prayer. And I truly believe in the power of prayer. For me, it's very important that I share my prayers with you, because I truly believe I'm not the only one out here praying. And so I like to make sure that I stand on a couple of key prayers, especially right now in these particular times. So first and foremost, I'm going to stand on peace. I'm always going to want you to have peace in your life. I want you to be able to take moments of peace for yourself. And what that looks like sometimes may mean just sitting still in your car for 3 minutes, because that's all you have. But in those 3 minutes, I want you to breathe deeply. In those 3 minutes, I want you to be able to release anything that is vexing your spirit, anything that is weighing on you. I want you to take 3 minutes to recalibrate and tell yourself that you are amazing, that you can overcome whatever you're facing, no matter what that looks like, so that you can dial back into yourself. Because when things are constantly coming at you, and I hate to say it, life comes at you quick sometimes, you have to be willing to take a moment to breathe. You have to be willing to take a moment to just stand in it, just to feel what you're feeling, so that you can give yourself the strength to be able to move forward. And so I hope that you will allow yourself that and give yourself all the grace and strength necessary in order to move forward. So those are my prayers for you this week. I am recording on Saturday, November the 1st at 1:51 p.m. and I am so excited about being here. I want to thank everyone for their support of last week's episode, Homecoming, when I went back to my alma mater, Florida A&M University, the finest university in the world, for homecoming after not being there since 1996. And it was an adventure. I had such a great time. I can't believe how much Tallahassee has changed, how much the university has changed, how much the vibe of the university has evolved. And it really just triggered in me a thought and a question that I was posing to you guys last week about, what are the places and spaces and people that you have not dwelled in a very long time? Where do you need to go back home? Because I think a lot of times we need to evaluate those spaces because that may be just the reset that we're looking for. Sometimes it's a matter of going backwards in order to go forward. And so I hope that you were left with something to think about. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, I'm going to make sure that it's in the show notes. But I definitely am back this week with a whole nother topic that I want to talk about. And it was funny because I had no intention of recording this week. I really didn't. I wasn't sure because I just didn't really have the inspiration pulled together. But luckily, a conversation this morning with my sister on the way to work really made me think about something. And the first thing that I thought about is it is November the 1st, and we are 60 days away from the end of 2025. And it's been quite a year, but with everything going on, because the world is super, 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 super nosy and noisy. Yes, no, I didn't mean to say nosy, but it is. It's nosy and noisy because everybody wants to be in everybody's business. And we just can't help it because there's just so much being thrown at us every day. And God knows, let's be honest, it's, because of it, it's just overwhelming. But I really wanted to talk about one thing that set in my spirit. And what set in my spirit when I thought about all of that was, it's time to tend to our own garden. And it's time to tend your garden. It's time to tend my garden. And so I want to talk about that. Because in the midst, like I said, the world is noisy. People are tired. People are struggling. And I think right now it's time for us to turn not just inward for ourselves, but inward for ourselves so that we can show up stronger for our people in our community. And so let's dive in. Let's talk about it. Because, like I said, the world is noisy and there's so much going on. There's so much constant stream of news on social media and crisis updates. And if you think about it, it just keeps us in a state of anxiety and distraction. And so it's easy to get consumed with what's going out there and forgetting about what's going on inside of us. I don't know about you, but sometimes it can feel like we're just having things thrown at us, and it can create, I hate to say it, like a numbness, and it's really important that we discern when those things are happening, when it's occurring, because we want to make sure we stay informed, but we just can't get apathetic. But at the same time, we also can't lose ourselves in all of the noise. And so it made me think to myself, am I staying informed by looking at everything, or am I overwhelmed by looking at everything? And if I am feeling those things or thinking like information overload or I'm just trying to stay up to date on what's going on, how am I using my energy to grow? Or am I using that to just fuel my worry? And so I wanted to kind of think about, how we can start to really dial back and start to tend our inner garden, because our inner garden deserves to be poured into. And I think these are the moments where we have an opportunity in these last 60 days of 2025 to start thinking about how we need to maybe show up for ourselves and check in with ourselves emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. We have to think about it. A lot of us are just kind of like moving through life really, really fast because we have so many things that we need to accomplish, with so many things being thrown at us. And we are forgetting how we need to maybe protect our peace even more in seasons like this, because it's chaotic right now. It really, really is. It is really hard to be able to do everything for everyone. And God knows we're all trying, because you want to be supportive. You want to be the best version of yourself. But there's nothing wrong. There's nothing selfish in reference to pulling back. And how are you giving yourself permission to pull back? I know for myself, this week has been super hectic with work. We've had some restructuring. And so I've been spending more time, doing things at work and engaging with my teams. And there's been lots of emotions from all over the gamut, from sadness, from frustrations to everything, and still trying to, hunker down and focus because, like I said, it's the last 60 days of the year. And so I have found myself after work being really quiet, I can't handle watching too much social media too often, or not checking in with the people that I love as much as I would love to. I've been thinking about that. And actually, I'll be honest, I was feeling a little bit of guilty about it too, because I was just overwhelmed. But I recognized that in my feelings, I had to pull back. And in that moment, when I said I had to pull back, I noticed that I would just take some time, in between. I was very intentional this past week about making sure that I ate lunch. That's a big thing for me. A lot of times I will skip it and it's not something that I need to do, or I'll eat on the fly in between meetings. I'll eat in meetings, which is not the ideal, but I will. I'll just get off camera and be like, ooh, sorry, I had to take a quick meeting, had to take a quick note, and I will, because I'm just trying to stay connected. But this week I was a little bit more intentional, and I took 20, 30 minutes off just for me, just to sit and just to eat and to read or to think or to breathe while I ate. And it felt so good to have those moments. Sometimes I did feel like I was not following through on things because, you get those constant pings if you work remote, or even if you're in the office or doing other things, people are still trying to pull on your time. But I prioritized me. And so I'm asking you, what are you doing to create those boundaries, those things for you? I know carving out time for lunch sounds like a small thing, and it is. I'm not even going to pretend it's a small thing, but I need to take small steps in order to take big steps. And sometimes we need that permission to give ourselves small steps over big steps. So I want you to think about, how are you taking moments like that for yourself? Because if you think about it, those are creating little moments of boundaries for you. And I think in times like this, it's just time for us to reflect on our peace and think about how we can protect ourselves better in chaotic situations. I think boundaries are going to become even more essential. I mean, we're going to need to probably create boundaries with information, with people, and energy that doesn't serve our peace, because everybody's peace doesn't align with your peace. And that doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean, that it's just a tough situation. It just may not align with what you need in that particular point in time, because we're all processing information. We're all processing stress. We're all processing things at such a different rate. And so you have to be able to decide that your peace is essential, and that these boundaries that you are creating with the information that you're being told, the people that you're surrounding yourself, the energy that you are feeling that doesn't serve you, is okay, because as long as you are doing what is best for you, you are going to be able to pour back from a full cup. Because I want to say something to you, and I want you to take this in. You can't pour into the world from soil that's been stripped bare. Refill your ground again before you give again. And let me say that again for you. You can't pour into the world from soil that's been stripped bare. Refill your ground again before you give again. Because if you don't, you are going to just be pouring and pouring, and no one is going to be watered. Nothing is going to grow. And that is not what you deserve. Because one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this is, especially right now, it's really important for us to remember that the garden that we are tending to, us, it's beyond you. You have a community. We have to talk about the fact that we are in a time. If you don't think we're in a time, I really hate to be the one to tell you this. I'm going to take your hand and hold it while I gently tell you this. But we are in a time where it is very important that we understand that our community is going to be the ones that save us. Our community is going to be what gets us through this. I do. I mean, the world is shifting. None of us are blind to it. We all can see. It feels fractured. You can feel it. I mean, people are being displaced, laid off, priced out, worn down by things. And so it is important that you tend to your garden, because your garden is also going to be a means for helping your neighbor water theirs in whatever way you can. Because let's be real, let's think about it. When we're talking about it, our community, our garden, I know for myself, like I said, I can't be worn down. I have a family. I have a sister. I have a mother. I have a husband. I have a daughter. I have friends. I have to be able to pour. And so that means that I have to feed into that. But even beyond them, I have to think, I want to think about, or I have to think about how I may be called to help on support other people. This is a season of where we're going to think about checking in on our elders. This is going to be a season where you may need to share a meal or a resource. This is going to be that season where you may need to support local organizations helping families affected by immigration or government funding cuts. I mean, let's keep it real. But we also have to understand that in that season, in this season of where we are possibly going to be called beyond ourselves to pour, that it is okay to balance that call with a compassion and a love and a desire to protect yourself. Because one thing, before we get all deep about it, we have to remember is you don't have to save everyone. Sometimes your role is to show up and just be you. And let me say that again, because, we feel these pressures, we feel these calls to do all the things. But we have to remember, we have to balance it with compassion for ourselves, because we don't have to save everyone. Sometimes our only role is to show up with empathy and be present. Just be you. Because community care and self-care aren't opposites. They're extensions of the same garden. Because when you are able to cultivate your ground, when you are able to bear fruit, you can give that fruit to the community and they can pour back into you. It's extensions. And we have to start to recognize that a lot more. And that's why I wanted to make sure that I highlighted the fact that we have to have balance. We have to have care, because a lot of times what happens is, we get so gung-ho into it. We see people hurting or we see our community hurting and we try to pull that cape back out. The cape that we've talked about, ladies, that we've actually put up on the shelf, especially those of us who are a part of the 92%. We have put that cape up on the shelf because we have worn that cape for so long. We have to make sure that we understand that cape's really not required this time, because we can show up and be present and be supportive without overextending ourselves. And we can also acknowledge that, sometimes we may feel a little guilt when we pull back, but we have to understand that rest is a form of resistance. And if you haven't read that book by Tricia Hersey, I'm going to make sure that I put a link to that. Rest is a form of resistance. And boundaries protect our ability to give long term, because this is not a short term sprint. I'm going to hold your hand again as I say this. We're in a whole new season, and this season is not going to end in 2-3 days. It might not end in 2 or 3 years. It might not even end in 2 or 3 decades. So it is very important that we are set up for the long game. And so that means that as we are trying to play the long game, we have to be very mindful about how we have the ability to show up for ourselves and for other people, and be very mindful and intentional with how we give, how we support. I mean, let's just be honest. Sometimes you're going to have to be able to give where it aligns with your capacity, not with what you think you can do, but with your capacity to do. Because, hey, this is a universal situation and you're going to want to touch everything. And sometimes you can't touch everything, and you got to be okay with that. And you have to understand that it is okay to rest when your spirit says stop. You have to really listen to you. And it's okay. Don't think that it's somebody trying to distract you like the enemy or whatever. If your spirit is telling you to rest, it's telling you to rest because the spirit needs you to stop so that you can be renourished and refueled and then go again. And then trust that tending that your peace makes you giving more sustainable. Because like I said, this is about the long game. This isn't about the short game, because you can't bloom and burn out. I mean, let's just keep it real. How many of us have tried it? You can't bloom and burn out. You have to water you first, because when you water you first, that's how your love multiplies. That's how your giving capacity multiplies. That's how your garden grows. You have to water you first, because you cannot bloom and burn out. And so thinking about where we are, like I said, the last 60 days, it's time to prepare for 2026. I mean, we really have to think about how do we want to close this chapter? I mean, and start really thinking about what does our garden in 2026 really look like? I mean, are we really thinking about it in the sense of trying to make sure that our peace is protected and restored? Or how are we thinking about strengthening our community? Are we focused on clarity returning? And this may be a season where you need to journal. And, so when I was thinking about putting notes together for this episode, I wanted to offer up some journal prompts, and I'm going to make sure that I put these in the show notes as well. But I think it's really important that we start to take a breath and dial in. I know for myself, and I've talked about it numerous times before, I've never really, or not never, I am not in a season anymore of the vision board. I just can't do it. It doesn't align with me. I really have been in a season since I turned 50 about, the things that I'm leaving behind and how I'm moving forward into 2026. When I'm thinking about this new season of 2026, I have to admit, I'm in a whole new era. I'm in my Pamela Davis Brown era, the wife era, my new life era. It's like a whole new thing. And I'll talk more about that as I get into it, because adding another moniker to my ever list of jobs, but it's a new moniker. It's a favorite moniker. It's a growth moniker. So my garden is expanding. And so I'm trying to think about it in the sense of how my garden is going to look in 2026. And so what I'm saying to you is, I think this is a great opportunity to think about and visualize what your garden is going to look like going into 2026. Like I said, and with these journal prompts, I'm hoping that it will help you kind of start to guide that, because I'm going to be doing them along with you. And so really the journal prompts that I wanted to share with you are, what needs pruning before this year ends? I mean, looking at where we are right now into 2025, knowing how things are probably going to go and look in 2026, and not even knowing everything, what in your life needs pruning? Who in your life could use a check-in or a kind word? That's another prompt. And how do you want to feel stepping into 2026? Because I would love to say that we have that luxury where we could plan at the first of the year. Unfortunately, I think, as I hold your hand again, saying this, waiting until 2026 to plan for 2026 is a recipe for a struggle. I'm not going to say a recipe for failure, because that's not really what we're talking about here. It's a recipe for struggle. I think taking a time right now, as we are in these last 60 days, to start to think about in a visualizing way how we want our 2026 to look, understanding that we will face uncertainty, is a step for ease, a step toward growth, a step in watering your garden, because it is very important that we are a lot more intentional, like we've discussed over these past 22 minutes, about how important it is for you to tend to you. And if you don't take anything away from it's time to tend to your own garden, I want you to take away this one thought, that in a world that is constantly going to feed you noise, you are the most important thing that you have in this world to focus on. And so, yes, the world is going to do what it's going to do. Things are going to be what they're going to be. People are going to say what they're going to say, but it's all about you, because the light inside of you, the gift that you are, the garden that you have, will feed not only you, but it will feed thousands. It will feed hundreds. It can feed just 5. You have no idea the power of you and your impact and your reach. So you have to value you. You have to tend to your garden. And so it's time for you to take a little step back, get a little bit quiet, spend a little less time on social media. I know that's hard, child. I know I love to scroll and all those things too. I'm going to do it too, though. But I'm going to do it too because our garden requires pruning. Our garden needs to be ready and plentiful, because that garden is going to help us and help other people. And so I really want you guys, again, to think about those prompts. And so let me give them to you again, just so that we're all aligned on it. What needs pruning before this year ends? Who in your life could use a check-in or a kind word? And how do I want to feel stepping into 2026? And give yourself license to truly be honest with yourself. These are your thoughts. This is your journal. This is your garden. Do it your way. You don't have to do it any kind of way, but do it because you deserve to be faced with clarity. You got to get clear. No more can you be out here just trying to figure it out. It doesn't work that way anymore. It's only going to set yourself up for struggle. And we don't do struggle. We're trying to leave struggle in 2025. We are trying to focus in 2026 on being more collective, growth, peace, intention, strengthened together as community. So we got to be really intentional, because I do want to say this. The soil may feel tired, but remember, this soil is still alive. And if we take this time with care, with intention, and pour in our love, it's going to bloom again and again. So I really want you to take this time with me. I really hope that you will use these last 60 days to nurture your peace and reconnect with your people. Remember, you're not here to fix the world alone. You are just here to tend to your part of the garden, and trust that the collective, that your community will grow stronger when we each do our part. And so I hope that this, like I said, gave you some things to think about, that you will join me on this journey. So for the next 60 days, we're going to talk about gardening. We're going to talk about blooming. We're going to talk about the things that need to be pruned. We're going to take this piece by piece, layer by layer, because I know for myself, entering into my new era, I'm going to be doing the work along with you. So let's do it together, because again, we're strengthened together. So thank you for this time. And until next time, I want you to take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep tending your garden. And I'll be back next week with a brand new episode, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.